Okay, thank you very much. We are here to commemorate the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty.
International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, October 17, 2009. Whereas the 1945 Constitution of the United Nations Educational and Scientific and Cultural Organization states that since wars began in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. Whereas since 2006, the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty has been commemorated each year on October 17th to remember the victims of extreme poverty, violence, and hunger. Since then, people of all ages, backgrounds, beliefs, and social origins have gathered every year on October 17th to show their solidarity and renew their commitment to the poor. Whereas the UNESCO Center for Peace is participating with the Frederick Community Agency, Frederick County Habitat for Humanity, and the Maryland chapter of the United Nations Association to host an event in commemoration of the 2009 International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. Governor of the State of Maryland, do hereby proclaim October 17, 2009 as International Day for the Eradication of Poverty in Maryland, and do commend the celebration of all of our citizens. Thank you, Keith.
I think we all know our senator. We have no better champion representing us in the Congress than the senator. I remember when I met with him in Hagerstown, he was coming to press for the M-chip. And God knows, we fought many years trying to have health insurance here for the children. It didn't happen until, the senator took on with the other senator, Barbara McCoskey. They've joined together, they work as a team. I think for us, looking at them working in the Congress, I think that's the best thing that we could learn. And hopefully we bring that back here into our community, in Frederick, in around the county, and maybe Western Maryland. I know many of us are from the Western Maryland. So without further delay, I'm going to introduce a champion for civil rights. The NAACP every year puts out a report card, and I'm happy to tell you that our senator is remarkable. He always has 100% anytime there's a report card from NAACP. So I'm proud to introduce to you the champion of civil rights and equality.
I'm honored to serve in the United States Senate, and I thank you very much for giving me that opportunity, giving me the opportunity to serve with Senator Ted Kennedy. My seat was next to him in the United States Senate. I treasure the moments that we had together. He was my hero on dealing with this issue of ending poverty. He devoted his life to helping those who were less fortunate and being an inspiration to use every tool we have at our disposal to help people otherwise whose voices would not be heard. So we no longer have Senator Kennedy with us, but we have his inspiration. President Obama understands that. President Obama is working on an economic program to build our economy so this nation can achieve the Millennium Development Goals of our people and lead in the international effort. I really do believe that President Obama was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize because the international community was thirsty for a leader, for someone who give us inspiration that in fact we can eradicate poverty in our time, we can achieve peace, that we can connect the dots. And I think that's the reason that the world is looking at the United States as, you're back, we're back. We understand that we are part of an international community. It's bigger than just us. And we have responsibilities in the international community. But we have responsibility here at home. The number one issue today in the United States Congress, as I'm sure you all know, healthcare. What's going to happen? I'm asked that question all the time. Wish I could tell you the answer. Now, there's many ways you can look at healthcare reform. And certainly the president's looking at it, and rightly so, as a matter of cost. We've got to bring down the cost of healthcare in America. There's no question about that. We spend way too much money in healthcare costs. And we waste a lot of money because if we invested in prevention, keep people healthy, we could save a lot of money. We invested in health information technology, we could save a lot of money. So we're wasting a lot of money. But there's another dimension to the healthcare debate that I really want you all to get engaged in. And that's the fact that there are 46, 47 million Americans without health insurance today. And in the United States of America, the wealthiest nation in the world, if you're poor, you're not going to get the same health care that everyone else gets. That's a fact. The disparities among race is clear in America on health care today. And we need to deal with these disparities. And if you need any example, just look at what happened in Maryland in 2007. When DeMonte Driver, a 12-year-old, who had a toothache, whose mom tried to get him to a dentist, but no dentist would treat him because he had no insurance. He needed $80 of dental care. And the United States of America, the wealthiest nation in the world, he couldn't get that care. He lost his life as a result of it. We can do better. There is a moral issue in this healthcare debate. There is something wrong with America being the only industrial nation in the world that does not guarantee to every one of its citizens decent quality health care. It's time that we recognize this is a right. This is a right for the people of America. Now, I know a little bit about international standards. I'm privileged to chair the United States Helsinki Commission, which is our participating arm in the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. It consists of all the nations of Europe, Central Asia, Canada, and the United States. It was created in 1975. It was created as an effort to have dialogue and commitments among all those nations, the largest regional organization in the world, on basic human rights, on security, and on economic issues. And we've taken on some very challenging issues and looked at the international parts of these issues to try to deal with these matters and to provide some leadership here in America. Just this past weekend, I was in a major European capital of a rather wealthy country. And I decided I would visit a Roma camp, which I frequently do. Romas are one of the most discriminated people in the world. They have no home. No one really wants them. And I visited this camp in a relatively wealthy country, in a wealthy city, and saw the most deplorable living conditions that you can imagine. Children who are not going to school, where there's no running water, where their houses are literally cardboard, where they have to get electricity by tying into an electrical line because there's no electricity in their homes, where they have to use wood and light it in the wintertime in order to try to get some heat in their house. We can do better as a world on these issues. And the Helsinki Commission is looking at these efforts to try to be constructive in ending poverty by ending discrimination. But there's one area that I want to talk to you about that really should surprise and shock you. And that's the resource curse. I want to talk about that a little bit this evening because I want to get you all engaged in this issue. Many countries that are the richest in the world in natural resources are devastatingly poor as far as their people are concerned. Oil and gas-rich countries, we always thought were those who won the economic lottery. But in reality, when you look at the facts, many of these mineral-wealthy countries are in worse shape than their neighbors that have no mineral wealth. Now, we should take a look at this. The 60 nations that have mineral wealth that are developing or transition countries represent 3.5 billion people on this world, about 1/2 of our world's population. Yet these mineral wealthy states, 1.5 billion live with less than $2 a day. They represent 2/3 of the world's poorest people in mineral wealthy states. Their mineral wealth has been a resource curse. Why? And there are many reasons for this. Number one is corruption. The money doesn't get to the people, it gets to a few, and it is used to finance corruption. They're unstable governments, so there's no way of getting protection from the public officials. And there's another phenomenon that works in these countries concerning their distorted exchange rates. Because they have mineral wealth, the country appears to be wealthier than it is, which drives up consumer goods in their country much faster than their wages go up, making them even poorer. Well, one way to attack this is what Justice Louis Brandeis said, with sunlight is the best disinfectant. And I want to talk to you about the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, the EITI, which I dare say few of you have heard of, but I want to make sure that you're aware of it because I'm trying to get the United States to do something about it. It's an international effort. It requires companies that deal with countries to disclose their contracts, and countries that have mineral wealth to disclose their contracts with the oil and mineral companies. And it allows civil society organizations to monitor where those revenues are going. Simple enough. It's internationally supported, Publish What You Pay campaign by the World Bank, the IMF, the African Development Bank, the Asian Development Bank, and I could list another dozen, including the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe and our Helsinki Commission. I just recently joined with Senator Lugar, and Senator Lugar is the ranking Republican member on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. The two of us co-sponsored a bill called Energy Security Through Transparency Act, which would have the United States be a full partner in the EITI. We're not today. We should be a full partner. What would that mean? Well, one of the things we've asked to be done is that any company that wants to be listed on the United States stocks exchanges would have to comply fully with the EITI. Now, a lot of these, as you know, are multinational companies, and they do business in the United States. So if they want to do business in the United States, comply with these basic disclosure laws. We would provide technical assistance to countries to be able to comply with it, and we would lead by example. This might seem a little surprising. We would disclose our own mineral contracts that are entered into, so that you have a chance to look at where our public lands are being used, who's getting the contracts, and what are the financial aspects to those contracts. We also asked to work with our partners in the G8 and G20 for similar efforts. And let me just mention one country. If England would join the United States, and if the two countries would say that we're not going to list stocks on our stock exchanges if they don't comply with the transparency laws, between the London and New York exchanges, you're dealing with just about 100% of the oil and mineral companies, other than those that operate only in their own country. And there are some that operate solely in one country. And that would have a tremendous impact in getting the money down to the people who need it. That's our goal. Our goal is that the people of a nation should be able to enjoy the wealth of that country. And it's shocking that in our struggle to end poverty, which is a tough battle, there's always not enough money in the budgets to do it, you can't allow the wealth of that nation to be drained by corruption. We've got to get it to help people with their health, with their education, with their housing. Now, we need to apply the same principles in the global climate change legislation. Once we enact the health care bill, we send that to the president in a few months. That's optimism. Then we're going to send the president a global climate change bill, right? We're going to get that to the president soon. We have a responsibility. I'm proud to join Senator Kerry and Senator Boxer in that effort in the United States Senate. We have a very strong bill, stronger, by the way, than the House bill. It sets a tighter time schedule to get a 20% reduction by 2020, which is a which is a more stringent standard on carbon reductions. We got to deal with this, but I want to talk just briefly about the international aspects here. We have a meeting scheduled in Copenhagen in December, all the nations of the world, to do something about greenhouse gases. Now, I'm not a scientist, but I follow what the science is telling us. And we know that the Earth is warming too quickly as a result of what we do here on Earth. The carbon emissions, we have to bring down those carbon emissions if we want to be able to preserve our waterfront property. If we want to see whether Smith Island could in fact remain Smith Island and not be totally gone. If we'd like watermen to have crabs in order to harvest, the water's too warm. And we have to do, we can do something about it. But internationally, it's much more severe. If you're living in coastlines of Africa and Asia, and you see the droughts and you see the flooding conditions, you become what's known as a climate migrant. You're leaving your country because it can't sustain you, causing huge problems of stability in Asia and Africa and in parts of Europe. And we have an international responsibility to do something about it. So one of the goal of Copenhagen is very simple, very simple. We want to set targets to reduce greenhouse gases so we don't increase the temperature more than 2 degrees centigrade from pre-industrial. That's going to be our goal. And we want to set a mechanism that will allow us to get to those goals. But there's one more thing we got to take up in Copenhagen, which may not be understood fully by the people of America. It's called financing. It's called financing. It's to tell the developing world to join us, because the developing world said, look, you messed up the climate, now you're asking us to sacrifice? You know, give us our chance to become an industrial nation. Don't hold us back. And we say, look, this is an international problem. We need your cooperation. Every nation has to have goals, including the developing world. But you're right, and we're going to help finance the damage that's been done. Because you don't have the resources to do it, we're going to provide you help. We're going to help you transition into this green energy sources. And that's right. And it's in our bill, it's in the House bill, it's in the international efforts. But I just want to urge us to make sure that we include transparency in that, because we don't want to see the same thing happen with the climate change funds that's happened to the mineral wealth funds of nations. We've got to make sure it gets to the people. And it's a real challenge when you don't have functioning governments. It's a real challenge when you don't have accountability. We have to make sure it's included in that legislation. And I can tell you, I'm working very closely with my colleagues to make sure, in fact, that takes place. Teddy Roosevelt said America won't be a good place for anyone to live until it was a good place for everyone to live. And I know you all agree with that. We also agree that should be the standard we use for the international community, for the entire world. The Millennium Development Goals established in 2000 to eradicate global poverty required us to take action by 2015. Well, that gives us 6 years, 75 days, and a few hours to go. We can't afford to waste any time in getting the work done. I thank you. I thank you for being here tonight. I thank you for understanding the urgency of this issue. And I thank you for making a difference. I'm proud to represent you in the Senate. Thank you all very much.
Many of you asked about UNESCO. Yes, UNESCO is one of the specialized institutions of the United Nations. That job is to preserve peace around the world. After witnessing 2 world wars during a lifespan, you know, having a single individual seeing 2 world wars during one lifetime was something that many say should never happen again. So they created the UNESCO to help do that, not by confrontational way, but to get people to discuss education, science, culture, and communication. That's why it is said precisely that since war began in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defense of peace must be constructed. And we do that in all our activities. Thank you again, and I hope to see you tomorrow and from now on every single day. Thank you. Thank you.